You know, when a child goes missing, you'd think there would be an understanding, an unspoken rule that we set aside the noise, the drama, the petty online war to focus on one thing: finding the child. But that's not what happens here on social media. Instead of unity, the internet declares war. And not just on the people involved, but on each other. And in the middle of the battlefield, yesterday, a dad did what dads do when they have nowhere to turn. He prayed. A simple, desperate prayer. Meant to bring comfort, but it's now content. Something to dissect, to argue about, to use as ammunition in the ongoing fight. Seth Rogers stood at a vigil for his missing son, his voice breaking, calling on Samael, the angel of death, for protection, for truth, for justice. And within seconds, people weren't talking about Sebastian. They were debating the theology of an ancient angel, because that's where we are now. And honestly, I don't know if we can come back from any of it. Let's talk about what Seth actually said. Because if you listen to the internet, you'd think he called down plagues and fire from the sky. But that's not what happened. His prayer was raw and emotional and frantic, and some of the wording probably did catch people off guard. So let's break down what he said. Quote, "By the eternal name we do summon Samael, the angel of death, the guardian of divine justice." End quote. And that line set it on fire. Samael is a complicated figure in religious and mystical traditions. Some see him as an angel who carries out divine justice, and others paint him as a punisher, an enforcer, even a tempter. So when Seth called upon him, people immediately jumped to he was invoking vengeance, calling for harm. But that's not what the prayer says. Because right after that line, Seth says, quote, "O Samael, fear and unrelenting, stretch forth thy hand, not in wrath, but in righteous protection." End quote. So not in wrath. He wasn't asking for destruction. He was asking for safeguarding. But that didn't matter, because once people had it in their head, did Seth just call on the angel of death? Facts became irrelevant.
Sacred prayer for Sebastian, calling upon the angel Samael. O most high God, ruler of heaven and earth, in the stillness of the solemn night, we gather with hearts steadfast, bound by Father's unyielding love for his son Sebastian, a child of light, innocent and pure. By the eternal name, we do summon Samael, the angel of death, the guardian of divine justice, he who moves at thy command. O Samael, fierce and unrelenting, stretch forth thy hand, not in wrath, but in righteous protection. Stand beside Sebastian, wherever he may be. Let no harm befall him. Let no evil touch him. Be his shield in the unseen places, his sword against those who do him wrong. With thy blazing eyes, seek out the wicked who cloak the truth in shadows. Unravel their lies and cast their works into the light. Break the chains that conceal Sebastian's path and scatter those who stand in the way of his return.
Later in the prayer, he says, quote, "With thy eyes blazing, seek out the wicked who cloak the truth in shadows, unravel their lies, and cast works into the light." End quote. And this is where the emotion comes in. The father believes somewhere someone knows more than they're saying. And whether that's true or not, that's not for me or you or the internet to decide. But let's be clear, it's not a curse. It's not a death wish. It's a plea for answers. And instead of taking it for what it is, an act of grief or desperation, The internet does what it does. It turned it into a spectacle. And that's the part that gets me. Seth's prayer should have been a small moment of unity, a reminder of how much pain the whole family's in. But instead, it becomes fuel. And you've got people using it as evidence that Seth's crazy, others claiming he's secretly threatening Katie, and others, of course, a whole parade of YouTubers and TikTokers turned into armchair theologians, debating whether or not this was a legitimate prayer or some kind of coded crazy message. And the worst part is, none of them actually care, because it isn't about the truth. It's about engagement. The internet doesn't reward people for being right. It rewards them for being loud, for finding the angle that gets clicks, for picking a side, for making sure their video shows up in the recommended feed before somebody else's. And who's lost? Sebastian, the actual missing child at the center of all of this. Because while the internet debates ancient angelic figures, Sebastian's still out there, and we have no idea what happened to him. Sometimes, I believe if people just stop for a second and really look at what's happening and understand that there are so many people wrong on every side, including myself at times, they'd maybe see how screwed up all this is. And I used to really believe that, but I don't anymore, because this isn't an accident. These things aren't just randomly done by accident. This is how the system works. When tragedy strikes, we don't rally together. We pick a villain, we pick a side, and we turn somebody's worst day ever into content. And I don't know if we can ever go back. I don't know if we can ever fix any of this. And I don't have a solution to fix it. But I know this: if you care about these kids, Sebastian and Summer and Monkey Vaughn, you have to stop feeding this friggin' machine. Stop spreading baseless accusations. Stop engaging with creators who turn this shit into a spectacle. And stop making this about Seth versus Katie versus Chris, because it's not a reality show. It's a child's life. And every second wasted on internet bullshit is a second he stays missing. So what can we do? What can we do as human beings, as parents, as people who say that they care? Share his face. Boost verified updates if there are any, not speculation and nonsense. And if you don't have anything useful to add, then just don't say anything. Because sometimes silence is the kindest thing we can offer. If you have real information about Sebastian, contact authorities. And if you don't, pray. And if you don't pray, hope. And let these parents grieve and deal with this in peace.